Countries like Southeast Asia started development of cooperation systems, providers. There were also knowledge exchanges and technical cooperations going on in a number of fields. They have been able to create a lot of blend, a lot of thought process in terms of building a very sustainable process altogether. But there are a lot of non-governmental agencies who take up the responsibility of building a new society. Good morning and welcome to the first session in Chapter 6, Unit 4, second semester BCom, Sustainable Development, where we are going to talk about cross-border cooperation. Now, this might be a sensitive topic for all of us to talk today, but nevertheless, when it comes to sustainable development, you cannot think for anything bigger than this. Now, the need for international development cooperation between the developed and the developing nations, this is a talk from 1955 that's going on, especially among the countries in South Asia. Now, the tension that you see in terms of geopolitical factors between the South Asian nations have been reaching a new high altogether, especially after the 2001-2 altogether. The reason is that each one of these nations, though they might be small in terms of geography, but then they have a huge potential in terms of growth. If you look into the map of South Asia, look into countries like Malaysia, Singapore, Taiwan, Philippines, Vietnam, Hong Kong. All these countries are small countries when compared to India. But all these countries have a huge potential importance in terms of the economic and trade when it comes to the South Asia. So what we are able to see in the long run is that these nations also want to create their identity in each and every sphere, in each and every walk of life. Now, there have been many conferences there we have been trying to address that each nation should develop harmony among themselves, but that has always been with a very minimal success. Now, when you look into Hong Kong, the intrusion of China taking back Hong Kong into its fold has not gone up very well. So there has always been a situation of tens and riots that has been going on in the cities of Hong Kong. Similarly, when you look into Taiwan, again, Chinese airspace, their defense and other factors have also kept Taiwan and its semiconductors industries in a complete question mark altogether. Now, with all these things coming into picture, probably we start looking into a plan of action which was done during the 1978 United Nations Conference, where we were trying to implement a technical cooperation among the developing nations. That was also done by the Current Affairs of Japan in 2010 that has been published. So what we were trying to address is that trying to understand the entire world as a global village, try to resolve the differences between the nations. Now, is it possible? Can it be done overnight? Can it be just taken over just like that? No, that's going to be a very big question mark that's going to come. But nevertheless, that's what we were trying to address. Around this time, countries like Southeast Asia started development of cooperation systems, providers. There were also knowledge exchanges and technical cooperations going on in a number of fields. Now, if you look at Korea, South Korea in particular, when Samsung and Hyundai first came into India, of course, we looked at them as an intrusion. We looked at them as a competition, some destructive force altogether. Now, when you look back and today, probably Samsung and Hyundai have got more than 50% of the market share in their respective segments. When you talk about mobiles or when you talk about the automobile sector today, all in terms of growth. How has this been possible is that Samsung has been able to adapt itself to the need of Indians. Similarly, in terms of Hyundai also. So what we have been able to see is that every nation tries to understand the need of other nation and then they start developing their product. Now, India, when we started our concept in 2014-15, saying that make in India, and then we started coming after the pandemic levels of Atmanirbhar plan altogether. Today, we have also understood how to fulfill, how to satisfy our own needs. Today, what we want to see is that make in India and make it available everywhere in the world. So probably just like Indonesia, Malaysia, Singapore, Thailand, all these people who have been on the global map as a nation for their own specialities, India also wants to build a systematic cross-border cooperation and also promote the channels of trade and economic growth in a very, very sustainable manner. So this is the opportunity that lies before the nation trying to understand, trying to go forward in terms of the framework of development and cooperation. So this is not going to be that easy. We are going to understand the various capacities, the various modes that we are thinking about. Now, in terms of financial cooperation, what we have been able to see that many countries, all the countries, especially the Asian countries, have come in terms of their export-import banks. They have done a fantastic job. They've executed a lot in terms of growth and other aspects. So let's move forward to understand the loan schemes and how the neighboring countries, especially when we talk about Thailand, Malaysia, Singapore, Indonesia, all these big countries as a hubs all together, they have been able to create a lot of blend, a lot of thought process in terms of building a very, very sustainable process altogether. They've been very, very clear about this factor that yes, it is available. Apart from one country here, Singapore, why I would like to talk, because they are an advanced nation, a developed nation altogether. They've been the financial hub of South Asia, and probably with the tourism and other factors hitting on to Singapore, until the pandemic hit, they were one of the leading nations in the world and they had a very superb economic run altogether. But today, after the pandemic, because of the hit on tourism coming down low to a very great extent, Singapore did suffer that economic setback, but nevertheless, now they are coming back. But on the other hand, when you look at Indonesia, this country, though it had a potential, of course, one of the most favorite hotspots in terms of tourism industry, but still Indonesia, when it comes to the economic development aspects, they were not technically superior nation. They were not the nation that could probably create something more dynamic. Indonesia is still looking forward in terms of development, and it still needs a lot of help from developed nations like India, like China, or probably UK, US and other countries in terms of the development mode, both in terms of economy and growth. Now, for example, as I told you about the Singapore factor here, I would also like to talk about the industrial zones which they have created, the public-private partnerships they have created, and they have also been able to significantly enhance their technical knowledge through various programs that Indonesia has been working through actively and achieve the SDGs, engaging in finance, engaging in different set of activities altogether. Why this is important? If you look at Singapore as a nation, you will be able to appreciate this factor that without having any kind of investments, without having any scope in the area of agriculture, in the area of minerals, they don't have any natural resources. They're just a small island located off the coast. But still, they were able to build themselves as an economic superhouse, as a powerhouse altogether, because of the factor that they were able to channelize the tourism in the best way possible. Today, one of the best airports in Southeast Asia is definitely the Changi International Airport in Singapore. Plus, they are the regional headquarters for all the banks in South Asia. Now, this makes Singapore a viable city, a powerful city in terms of partnership and development. In fact, most of the IT companies would also look into Singapore as the regional headquarters and development center. What Singapore has been proactively been able to go forward is they have not given importance to the relationship. They have not gone ahead in terms of a cross-border tension with any other countries. Rather, they have focused on their internal growth to a very great extent. And that's one of the reasons probably Singapore has been able to develop a far sustainable nation when compared to the other South Asian nations. Followed by the civil society organization. Why? These are the factors which help a lot in terms of reducing poverty, reducing inequality altogether. Now, when I talk about this word, civil society altogether, these are the organizations, which these are just like the NGOs, non-governmental organizations, which involve in the various aspects in various walks of life. They try to understand, address the need for it, and they also address what is the new development, new knowledge, new hemispherical factors that are needed in terms of channelizing the energy and bringing forward a holistic society that can be best, that can be understood to the best level as far as possible. Now, when I talk about the vulnerability factors here, there are many at times what we see that government programs are not being completely appreciated by the people. But there are a lot of non-governmental agencies who take up the responsibility of building a new society. Why? Because they are able to exactly understand the nature of problem in the society. They are able to understand what exactly the people in that local area need, and they devise a program and strategy and come up very well in that sector. So that need for CSO is very, very important, so that the local beneficiaries can also come forward and they would be able to run the system far better. Followed by the CSOs are one of the most important things. This was presented in the OECD 2020 paper, where I would like to talk about the private actors in pursuit of the 2030 agenda. Why? Because CSO, more or less, when I talk about the civil society, this comprises of the public-private partnership. Today, when you were able to see that the Economic Time Awards of the India Change Makers, you could probably see a company called Adani, which took the initiative of coming forward and appraising the people who have been the change makers of the nation. Now, they are from different walks of life. The jury consists of a lot of people from different walks of life, but they have understood that today India needs to take the initiative of rewarding people who have been able to bring a sustainable change in the society. That's exactly an example of how public and private can join hands together, and they will be able to create a system through which you can see a continuous development altogether. Followed by the debates on effectiveness of South and South cooperation. It's very, very still in the nascent stage. I would say that there are a lot of indicators which have been working all together. And, the Asian providers have been facing their own kind of problem. Why? Because somewhere down the lane, they feel that the initiatives are yet to be taken into full-fledged. Most of the initiatives are not being in the real picture. There are certain roadmaps which are still yet to be devised, still yet to be taken factor. And in the view of securing the nation and creating an effectiveness policy, this has been a very, very big challenge that we have been talking about. So I would definitely say that one of the biggest example, the commitment that we are seeing on the Jakarta on the 18th of 2009, where we had spoken about how the initiatives have to come forward in terms of making the nations more cooperative, more regionally balanced, is yet to take its full form, its full shape altogether. So definitely this commission of making the people joining hands together and making it more effective is definitely going to be a big challenge here. Followed by the ASEAN, which is one of the oldest organizations that we're going to talk about. It is headquartered in Jakarta, was established in 1967, where we're going to talk about Indonesia, Malaysia, Philippines, Singapore, and Thailand being its founding members. Brunei joined the ASEAN in 1984, followed by Cambodia, Laos, Myanmar, which is also Vietnam, and also other places coming in the 1990s. And now we have a whole lot of cooperation that's been talked about, and this is one of the biggest organizations that has been very, very relevant and prevalent in the Asian sector. Followed by, this tries to address the problems of the Asian countries. At the end, we are talking about the integration factor, and we are on the principle called of prosper thy neighbor. Now, we always want to see that until our neighbors hit the range of prosperity, it is not possible for us to prosper. That's a very noble thought. Why I would like to say here is that the more the disparity between your neighbor, you would also lose your peace of mind. So that's why in the Asian philosophy, we believe that until and unless our neighbors are good, they are in a beneficial mode, they are in a happy mode, we cannot sustain ourselves. So this is going to be a very, very important factor that the ASEAN has been following. Followed by the bilateral level on development cooperation factors. They have been a pivotal role. They have been a key instrument player in terms of making them understand how the communication on data, on different factors have been important, how they have been able to provide cooperation in terms of the adequacy factor, how the regional growth has to be balanced, how the demands of that regions have to be met, where is that we need to focus, how is that we need to build our new generation. All those factors, ASEAN has been doing a fantastic job in making people understand how this is going up and how we need to really put it forward. At the regional level, the increasing coordination, improving of information sharing, mutual accountability, regional solidarity. Probably these terms look very, very abstract for us. Why? Because we are not at the center of action here. But then this is what every nation is today trying to understand so that they can provide a framework for the coordination altogether. And the step towards the regional approach of development and cooperation could be setting up of regular exchange of information and project priorities and programs. So what we are exactly seeing is that with the help of a regional coordination, with the help of a teamwork, probably we can achieve greater heights altogether. And finally, when we're going to talk about collaborations, the assistance of development committee, the finance for sustainable development, impact of development factors, and in particular, the South Asian countries coming forward using of the loan operations with the private and public factors. Now we can see that how we can scale up further and how we can develop a better system, a better society altogether. The other area where I would definitely like it to be considered is the coordination in terms of dialogues, the learning factor. I would always like to talk about this knowledge management factor, the know-how of how things can be done in a better way, how we can learn from each other, how we can share our ideologies, dialogue, especially in climate action, engagement with non-state development activities. These are very, very important. Why? Because this will help us to build a sustainable nation in the long run. With this, I come to the end of the syllabus, and I hope and believe that all these sessions through which we have been speaking through would be of a great importance, would be of a great value to you, both in terms of theory and in practical. The entire concept of sustainable development is all about making understand how sustainability can be taken in the practical walk of life. So with this, I come to the end of this particular topic as well as the subject. I hope and believe that all of you will take it up seriously and will do your best in the examination. All the best for the coming up examinations, and you score great marks ahead. Thank you.